you just say your first and last name and your title?
Okay, Lieutenant Cameron Roden, Cameron, last name Roden, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Department of Public Safety.
Great. So first, can you just walk me through what we know so far about the events that led to the triple homicide?
So this law enforcement involvement began last night about 4 p.m. when the Wayne County Emergency Communications Center received a call of 2 deceased females at a trailhead just off of SR 12 here in Wayne County. Law enforcement responded to the scene and they located 2 males at that scene that through further investigation are the husbands of the 2 victims of the 2 deceased females. And as they made contact with them, they were able to determine that the 2 females were indeed deceased at that scene, which was apparent homicide. Through their investigation, they noticed a vehicle near the trailhead that was a suspicious vehicle, and as they began to investigate that vehicle specifically, that led them to a residence in Lyman, Utah, of an elderly female. Officers responded to that residence, and as they made contact at that home, they found evidence that suggested and led them to the 3rd victim, which was the elderly female who they found deceased at the residence. They also found that through their investigation at the trailhead that there was a vehicle that was missing. Through communicating with the husbands there, one of the victims' vehicles that should have been at the trailhead was missing, which made them automatically assume that the suspect in this case had stolen that vehicle in attempts to flee and leave the area. As they began to use technology and things to try to locate that vehicle, they used automated license plate readers and also just the integrated tracking systems of the vehicle to begin to locate this vehicle and track it through as it went through southern Utah, crossed into northern Arizona, actually crossed into New Mexico a little bit before they were able to actually get its current location in southern Colorado. We coordinated with the local agencies there, multiple local agencies in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, who were able to locate the vehicle, which at the time was abandoned. But after a brief search of the area, they were able to locate that suspect and take him into custody without any incident.
Okay. And so after you found the 2 deceased women at the trailhead, how did you then know to go find the woman at the house?
Of course, that vehicle there wanted to see if there was any connection to that. Again, with having a connection outside the area and have an older female that they felt that it was not right. It didn't fit into the scenario, looked suspicious, and that's what ultimately led them to go to this residence.
And once arriving to the residence, was there any signs of breaking and entering? What is the scene at the house like?
They're still processing that scene currently to establish exactly what happened at that residence during that time yesterday. So we don't know exactly how the suspect entered the home or anything like that. But yet they did encounter evidence that led them to believe that there was something going on there. And as they looked further into that, is when they discovered that 3rd victim.
And what do we know about the cause of death of the victims?
That is something we have not. We're working with our investigators who, like I'd mentioned, we are still processing those scenes. We have not released that information quite yet.
And what about the ages and the names? Do we know the names yet of the victims?
And we are working with the families in this situation. Of course, just realizing the very traumatic situation that they're going through right now, we want to make sure that we give them the time to notify their loved ones and next of kin. We anticipate that those names should be released here in the near future, hopefully within the next day or 2. As far as ages, the age of we've released that the youngest one of the hikers was a 30-year-old female, as well as a 60-year-old female in their 60s, in their 30s, in their 60s, and then the resident was at her home was in her 80s.
And what about the relation of these victims? Did they know each other? Anything we know connecting them all?
So as far as the 2 hikers, we don't have any family relations that I know of other than friends that were out hiking together. As far as the 3rd victim, we don't have any connection to know that we know of that connects those at all.
Okay, and then there was arrest made this morning, so can you tell me about the suspect?
So the suspect is a 22-year-old male out of Iowa, Blakesville, Iowa, named Ivan Miller. And so he is being held currently in Colorado on a weapons offense. We are working on the charges here in Utah to extradite him back to Utah.
Do we know why he was in Utah for how long?
As far as the timeline of the suspect being here in Utah, that is something investigators are working on as well, seeing what his involvement here is prior to any of the actual incidents yesterday, and what he was doing here in Utah.
Did he have any criminal history?
We're not aware of any here in Utah, but as far as any other states, that will be part of the ongoing investigation.
And what about any idea?
We know that him taking both the vehicle at the residence and then the vehicle at the trailhead. Other than that, we have nothing established, but we'll work to continue that as we establish his timeline here in Utah.
And when he was arrested, were there any signs of, say, substance abuse, any strange signs sticking out?
We don't have any. That, of course, was Colorado law enforcement. We are working with them and will continue to communicate as the investigation goes on.
And then you said you used license plate technology. That's what was able to track him so quickly?
Between that and then the integrated the tracking devices inside the vehicle itself.
And those other stops, you mentioned southern Utah, northern Arizona, even New Mexico. Do you believe there might have been any other crimes committed along that route, or?
None that are immediately we're aware of, but it appeared that he was continuously traveling during that time. But I know that they'll review that complete travel time period just to make sure there's not missing anything.
Okay, and then the victims, were they all from this area? Were they all locals?
As far as I'm aware, all the victims were local. Not that anyone was traveling or anything like that. But as we release and get that information to release, will give us a little bit better glimpse into who they were.
What are the next steps for this?
Again, we've got 2 investigations going on right now at 2 different crime scenes. That will take a lot of the next day or 2 as we collect and gather as much information to do a thorough investigation. And then we'll go from there to extradite him. We've got a lot of interviews to do as well as trying to establish his timeline and time frame here in Utah.
Great, and so what are his current conditions? Like, where is he currently? Is he without bail?
So currently being held on the weapons offense in Pagosa Springs, and then as far as any charges here for Utah, we're currently working on those.
Okay, so there are not currently any in Utah?
They're working on those as we speak.
Okay, great. And then, this is a fairly small community. What is this like on the community?
As you can imagine, it would be a very, very scary, very close-knit town, and so it hits home when something happens to your neighbor and your friends. And so, from what we hear from the people and the neighbors, that they were very scared, especially with the suspect outstanding as of last night. We're grateful to be able to report that he is in custody. We don't have any potential threats outstanding, which can hopefully bring a little bit of closure. But again, this is something that will stay with him for a period of time.
And people were advised to stay in their homes, is that correct?
Yeah, they did. It's just as an abundance of precaution, not knowing where the individual was initially. We wanted to make sure that the residents stayed safe. And I know that the Wayne County Sheriff's Department issued those statements in that effort. And then as we started to track him, we found that he left the area.
And then you mentioned some next steps taking a few days. How long does an investigation like this typically take? Do you know kind of an overall timeline we could expect before seeing charges and then maybe seeing a potential court appearance?
Those should, as far as charges and things like that, those should happen over the next days, week or so before that starts to happen. But then as the court process starts and everything like that, we know that kind of has a time frame of its own.
And then could you share just one more time all the agencies involved at this point?
Yeah, so it was a great coordination, great collaboration between law enforcement to really start the ball rolling, be proactive and trying to get this handled. And so we wanted to issue some thanks to the agencies involved with that. So I don't want to miss anybody. We just wanted to say thank you to the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the Bureau of Land Management, the Pagosa Springs Police Department, the Archuleta, Sevier, and Kane County Sheriff's Offices. So I've been in law enforcement for 23 years.
Is this something you've seen before? Is this unusual for Utah?
It's definitely not something that we encounter on a daily basis. We've had things happen in Utah before, but no matter when it happens or how many times it happens, it's something that still affects you no matter how close you are to the situation.